Good day everyone. So this will be my lesson for today. So this is all about basic of Photoshop. So I'll be discussing the Photoshop environment at the same time also I'll be discussing the basic navigation in Photoshop and also some selection technique. At the same time also I'll be discussing um, uh, text tool and different shortcuts and also I'll be doing a demonstration of clipping mask, how you do clipping mask in Photoshop. Okay, so let's start. Let's start by opening our Adobe Photoshop. So when you open Photoshop, lalabas na yung Photoshop environment, and this is the entire environment of Photoshop. So you can click File, then New. Okay, so when you create a new file, so this will be your workspace area. So this will be your workspace. Okay, on the topmost here, this is the menu bar. And below the menu bar is the option bar. Okay. So on the left side, this is the toolbars. These are the different tools. And always remember that when you click on different tools, the option bar also changes. Okay, it means that you have options for a particular tool na nakaselect. Okay, so these are all the tools here. So always remember that there are options on the below the menu bar. So every time you click a tool, the option bar differs depending on the function of the tool. Okay, on the right side we have here the panels. Okay, so there are different panels or useful panels na pwede nyong gamitin in Photoshop. Okay, we have the layers panel, adjustments panel, color swatches panel. Okay, so I think you can move this one. You can move the panels if you want. Let's say the layers. Okay. So once you move your the different panels on Photoshop in Photoshop, so if you're going to close this one, close Photoshop and open it again, this will be the layout. So this is how your Photoshop will look like. So basically all of the panels are cluttered on the workspace. So instead of bringing it back here, you can always do reset. So since the default is essentials on this workspace menu, this is the workspace menu. So instead of moving back the panels, you can always use the workspace menu. You can click reset essentials. It will go back to the default layout of the essentials workspace menu. Okay, you have option here. We have painting. So it depends on what you are doing. So the panels changes depending on your layout. We have the photography. You have the typography. You can have your own workspace. Let's say, for example, if you want to move this one here, you want to remove some of the panels, or if you want to move the sum of the panels on different occasion, you can always save or new workspace. Just click new workspace. Let's say new workspace. Then click save. This will now be on the drop-down selection of the workspace menu. You can always reset new workspace. You can always go back to the default, the essentials. Okay? Okay, so every time you open Photoshop, let's say for example, I'm going to reopen again Photoshop. So it will go to the previous layout of Photoshop environment. So ibig sabihin yung last na ginalaw nyo na layout ng Photoshop, yun din yung lalabas after pagka ni-reopen nyo. Okay, let's say for example, if I'm going to move this one, yung mga panels on the right side, and I place it on the left side, or any portion of the Photoshop environment. So once I close Photoshop and open it again, yung pa rin yung location nun. Okay? So what if from time to time, madami ka na nagagalaw na settings, or you already moved different parts or portion of Photoshop, and at the same time, may mga settings ka na nagalaw. And if you wanted to bring back the default settings of Photoshop, so you can do that. Okay? So for you to be able to reset it to the default setting, always make sure to press and hold simultaneously, or pindutin nyo ng sabay-sabay yung Control, Shift, and Alt. Okay, ulitin ko ulit, that you have to make sure that you can press Control, Shift, and Alt simultaneously or sabay-sabay before the application opens. Okay? So be ready. So prepare your fingers or your keyboard, your fingers on the keyboard for you to be able to press ng sabay-sabay or simultaneously yung Control, Shift, and Alt. Okay? So prepare it on the keyboard. Then once you double click the Photoshop icon, so before it loads, press and hold Control Shift. Okay? Dito ko na. So if you're going to open Photoshop again, just click by clicking the Photoshop icon. So the Photoshop environment will be based on your last setting or last settings. But what if you wanted to bring back the original setting or the default setting, o yung pinaka-default niya once you install Photoshop? So what we're going to do is reopen Photoshop, but this time, after double-clicking on the icon, press and hold, or prepare your fingers to press Control, Shift, and Alt. Control, Shift, and Alt. Double-click, then press Control, Shift, and Alt. Okay, you'll be prompted to delete the Adobe Photoshop settings file. So just click yes. Automatically, it will restore the default setting of Photoshop. Okay, so babalik siya sa default settings. Okay, let's do it again. Close the Photoshop. Double click. Be ready to press Control, Shift, and Alt. After double clicking, press immediately the Control, Shift, and Alt before the Photoshop loads. Then, if you will be prompted with the delete the Adobe Photoshop setting file, just click yes. Your Photoshop will now be on its default settings. Okay, for the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to open the two files, the lesson 1A end file and the lesson 1A start file. Okay, so the start file will be our working file. So dito tayo magsisimula. Then we're going to edit this one to make it looks like the end file or the lesson 1A end file. So ang gagawin natin is we're going to select portion of the picture or the photo and then modify the brightness. Kung makikita nyo dito, so between the two photos, so yung headlight is a little bit bright on the end file, and the portion out of the headlight is a little bit darker on the end file. So dito ko from the start file, so the headlight itself, pagdating sa end file, mas mataas yung brightness niya. Okay? Sa start file, the portion outside of the headlight is a little bit darker on the end file. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So there are different selection technique that you can do in Photoshop. Okay, let's start first by opening the start file. You can open Photoshop. Okay, let's maximize. Okay, let's open the Photoshop file. Okay, this is lesson 1. So let's open both of the file. Okay, the lesson 1A and the lesson 1A end file and the start file. So select both. Then click open. Okay, so you have two open files here. So you have the end file and the start file. So the start file will be our working file, and it should when we modify modify the photo, it should look like this one. Okay, so this is the start file. Yung headlight sa end file is mas maliwanag, and the portion outside of the headlight pagdating sa end file mas madilim. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to select portion of the image and then modify it. Okay, so meron option dito para ma-compare mo yung two open files. Para, for example, if you are editing something and you wanted to look at a particular output, so you can always click window, arrange, and you can tile two up vertical. Okay, or click window, arrange, two up horizontal. Okay, it depends upon you kung ano yung mas okay sa'yo na view. So both of the files is being viewed in Photoshop for comparison. So below is the start file and below is the end file. Okay, since we are going to work on the start file, so we can now close the end file because we know ano ba yung magiging output niya. Okay, close muna natin to. Okay? Let's start muna with zooming. So there are different options that you can do if you wanted to zoom in or zoom out a particular program or a particular photo. Okay, you can press Z. Okay, you will now be on the zoom tool. Okay, so you will now be on the zoom tool. Ulitin ko ulit. From the move tool, so you can go to the zoom tool by pressing Z. Okay, by pressing Z, you can click to zoom in. You can click to zoom in, and to zoom out, press and hold Alt. Then click the mouse again. Okay, again, press Z. For zoom tool, just left click on your mouse. You can now zoom in. If you're going to zoom out, press and hold Alt. Then left mouse click again. Okay, another way to zoom in or zoom out instantly is you can press Control, then the plus button, or the plus sign. Control and the plus sign, or the control and the minus sign. Control plus, control minus. Again, you can press Control plus and Control minus for you to be able to zoom in and zoom out. Zoom in, Control plus, zoom out, control minus. Okay? So if you wanted to zoom and fit it on the screen, so you can always press control 0. Let's say for example, we zoom out nang medyo maliit na siya. So if you want to go back or to fit it on the screen, just press control 0. Okay? Automatically, it will fit on the screen of Photoshop. So, ulitin ko ulit. Let's say, naka-zoom in ka. Let's try naman zoom in. Okay? Nag-zoom in tayo. Then, if you wanted to go back to, if you want to zoom it in, zoom out, which fits on the screen, just press Control 0. Okay? So, as you can see, meron mga hidden tools pa. So if these are your tools, so there are some hidden tools. So if you're going to look at the toolbars, merong arrow pointing downward on the lower right corner of the icon of the tool. So you have an option if you wanted to look for the hidden tools pa. So you can always press and hold on the particular tool. Press and hold, then all the tools will be previewed again. Okay? So, para makita nyo, okay, just press and hold, press and click your mouse, or left mouse click. Then you can now view the hidden tools pa, which is under a particular tool. Okay? So what we're going, another way of viewing the hidden tools is you can press and hold Alt. Let's say for example, on the rectangular marquee tool, press and hold Alt, then click. Okay, let's say this one, the last tool. Press and hold Alt, then click. Okay? Ulitin ko ulit. So, you have two options. So, press and hold for you to be able to select a particular hidden tool which is under a particular tool, or you can press Alt, press and hold Alt, then click to cycle on the different hidden tools or tools. Okay, so let's start by selecting portion of the photo. So we have different selection tool here. So the first one is the rectangular marquee tool. The rectangular marquee tool selects a rectangle. Okay, so but since what we're going to do in the photo is that we're going to enhance the brightness of the photo of the portion which is the headlight, and we'll also reduce the brightness of the portion outside of the headlight. Okay? So ang gagawin natin is isa-select natin yung headlight. Okay? So by the way, so di ba we have the rectangular marquee tool. So we have selection here. Okay? So, I mean to say, this is the portion that you select in the photo. Okay? Select in the photo. So, if you wanted to remove the selection, you can always deselect by pressing Control D. Mawawala na yung selection nyo. Okay? So, let's start by working on the, ulitin ko ulit. Let's start on using the rectangular marquee tool. Select. If you wanted to deselect, Control D. Mawawala na yung selection. Okay? So, Control D is for deselecting a portion of the photo. Okay? Or deselect. Okay, we're going to select the headlight using the elliptical marquee tool. Okay? You can press and hold on the tool para makita nyo yung elliptical marquee tool. Okay? Okay? So, you can press and hold. And there's also a way to shift from rectangular marquee tool to elliptical marquee tool by pressing and holding Shift M. By pressing and holding Shift, then press M. Okay? I-click nyo na click yung M while pressing Shift. So, makikita nyo, nagbabago yung selection tool from elliptical marquee tool to rectangular marquee tool. So, from elliptical marquee tool or from rectangular marquee tool to elliptical marquee tool. Okay? So, you have an option to press Shift M to shift from rectangular to elliptical, or you can press and hold and select the elliptical marquee tool. Okay? So, you are now using the elliptical marquee tool, or you can select a circular portion of the photo or the image. Okay? So the problem with this one is it's very difficult to fit it on a circle na se-select nyo. Minsan mahirap siya ipantay because it starts on a particular corner going here. Okay? So, there are different options for you to be able to select circles in Photoshop. So dito ko lang, you can always deselect, Control D to deselect para mawala yung selection nyo. Okay? There's an option to start the elliptical marquee tool selection, which starts at the center. So, you can press Alt-Shift, press and hold Alt-Shift. Then, you can start at the center. So, if you're going to click at the center of the circle, let's say, on the headlight, click center. Okay? Kung mapapansin nyo, when you click and drag, it starts at the center of the circle. So, nagsisimula siya sa center of the circle. Unlike if you don't press and hold Alt-Shift or Shift-Alt or Alt-Shift, Control D again. So, if you don't have if you don't press the Shift and Alt, and just by using the elliptical marquee tool, so you start from the upper left pababa. Kung saan direction nyo drinag. Okay? Or move yung pointer nyo. Okay? So unlike if you're going to press and hold the Shift and Alt, then click at the center of the circle. Okay? Then, meron ka ng selection ng circle. Okay? Which starts at the center. You have an option. Dito ko ulit. Control D to deselect. Press and hold Alt-Shift. It starts at the center and it creates a perfect circle. Dito ko ulit ha. If you're going to press Shift and Alt together, and then starts at the center, it creates a perfect circle selection. Okay? That is Shift-Alt. Okay? If you're going to use the Alt alone, going to press and hold Alt alone, then click and drag, it creates a circle which starts at the center, but not a perfect circle. Okay? It can be an ellipse, but not a perfect circle. Unlike with the Shift and Alt, it creates a perfect circle. Okay? So another way is you can press and hold space. Let's say, for example, if you already draw nakapag-select na kayo ng circle, just click and drag, but do not release the mouse pointer yet. Huwag nyo muna i-release yung mouse pointer. So, di ba, when you move the mouse, it only resizes the size of the selection. So, nire-resize lang yung portion of the circle or the selection. Okay? What if you wanted to move the circle? You can always press space. Press and hold space bar. Then you can now move this one. Release the space bar. Then resize it again. Space bar to move. Release the space bar to resize. Okay? Let's say, for example, this one. Position this one. Use the space bar to move. Release the space bar to resize. Move the space bar to move. Move the space bars to resize. Okay? Okay? So, once the headlight is already selected, the portion na sinelect nyo is the headlight. Okay? So, what we're going to do next is we're going to increase the brightness of the headlight. So, there's an option to increase the highlights and the midtones of that portion or this selection. So, by using the curve, so just go to the image, adjustment, then curves. Then you can now move the point here or the adjustment here. Okay. So use the curve. Ulitin ko ulit. Just click image, adjustment, and curves. Then move the adjustments on the curve. Then click OK if you're done. Okay? So we adjusted the brightness of the headlight. Okay? Another thing that we need to do in this photo is that to reduce the brightness of the portion outside of the headlight. Okay? So babawasan natin yung brightness nung portion na nasa labas ng headlight. We're going to reduce the brightness of the portion outside of the headlight. Okay? Since you already have the selection, which is the headlight, so what we're going to do is we're going to invert the selection. So meaning to say, if the selected portion is the headlight, so we're going to invert this one to make the portion outside of the headlight na nakaselect. Okay? So we can do that by pressing Control Shift and I. Control Shift, then I. Control Shift and I. So that is what we call as select inverse. Okay? So if pwede rin uli natin i-select inverse para bumalik tayo dun sa portion ng headlight. Ulitin ko ulit. So the Control Shift I means invert selection. So if the selected portion is the headlight, if we're going to invert selection, Control Shift I, ang maseselect niya is the portion outside of the headlight. So this time we're going to adjust the brightness of that portion. Okay, just go to the image again, adjustments, then curves. Okay. So let's say this is our output. Just click OK. Okay. Control D to deselect. To remove the selection, Control D. There you go. We already modified the image using selection tool. Okay, so that is regarding with selection, especially for elliptical marquee tool selection. Okay, you can use the curve to adjust the highlights and midtones of the image or the portion of the image to if you wanted to have adjustments. Okay, if you're done, you can always save as PSD file or a Photoshop file, or you can save as JPEG file. Okay, let's say this is the end file. So you can save it as end file now. And that will be on a JPEG format. Save. Then save, just click OK. We now have the end file final here. Okay, so next we're going to use the text tool or the type tool. So this is the type tool. So we're going to add text on a Photoshop file. So let's start with an empty workspace. So just click File, then New, and click OK. So this will be our workspace. Control plus to zoom in, Control minus to zoom out, Control 0 to fit on screen. Okay, so we can click the type tool to add text. So you can select the color here. Okay, let's say let's try red, or let's try only web colors. Okay, and we have the type tool here. Just click and drag. Okay, say for example, I'm going to type my name, James. Okay, you can move. Select the type tool again. Okay, so you can select the text and change the font on the option bar. You can change the font. Let's say let's try other fonts here. Okay, okay, so you can try the thickness of the font. You have the narrow italics, narrow bold, italic, regular. Let's try black to make it thicker. Okay, we can change the color again. Let's say from red, let's make it as a blue. Okay. So you have different options for you to be able to resize the font size. Okay, so it's either select the text, then on the option bar, click the value or input the value here, say 100 points. Okay, you can select the value here. Okay, another way is that on the option bar, yung label on the text size. Okay, set the font size, yung label niya. So just left click on your mouse, then hold. Left click on your mouse, then hold. Then drag it to the right. Okay, or drag it to the left. Okay. So ulitin ko ulit. Select the text. You have an option to select the value here. Okay, or an option to scrub the set the font size label here. So left click on your mouse, then hold, then scrub to right or left to increase the size or to decrease the size of the font. Okay. Another way is to use the keyboard shortcut. Control Shift greater than and less than. Control greater than to increase the size, and Control less than to decrease the size of the font. Okay, so Control Shift greater than and less than to increase the font or to decrease the font size. Okay, so we can move the text here. Okay, so next is we're going to do clipping mask. Okay, so yung clipping mask na tinatawag is that you're going to clip a particular layer below it. Okay, so meaning to say it will follow the shape nung nasa ilalim nun. Okay, so let's say for example, I'm going to draw a shape. Just go to the shape tool. So hanap yung custom shape tool. Just look for the custom shape tool. Dito ko na go to the shape tool. So instead of using the rectangle tool, use the custom shape tool. Okay, we're going to use the heart on the option bar. So kindly look for the shape here. Okay, let's draw a heart here. Let's select the heart card. Okay, then click and drag. Okay. Just click and drag. Okay. So another way, if you already have the shape and you wanted to resize, you can always press Ctrl T or the free transform. Ctrl T or the free transform to resize. Press enter if you're done. Okay. Ulitin ko ulit. Press Ctrl T and resize the shape. That's free transform. Okay, and then press enter. Okay, Ctrl T again or free transform, resize the shape. Okay, and press enter. Okay, so that will be our shape. The heart shape is being drawn on the workspace. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a clipping mask. So the first one is we're going to use the brush to create a clipping mask para mag-fit siya sa sa shape ng heart. Okay? So what we're going to do next is we're going to add a new layer. So on the lower right portion of the Adobe Photoshop, may makikita kayo na create a new layer. Okay? Always remember when you create a new layer, it will create a layer above the layer selected. In this case, we selected the selected layer is the shape 1 or the layer na nilagyan natin ng heart shape. Okay? So create a new layer. So layer 1 is created above shape 1. So meaning to say, we created a layer above it. So, kung mapapansin nyo, this is a transparent layer, meaning to say there's nothing on this layer. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a clipping mask. So for you to be able to create a clipping mask, always make sure to right click on the label of the layer. This is layer 1. Right click, then create clipping mask. Okay? Okay, let's click the brush tool. So what we're going to do is we're going to brush. Okay, this is the brush tool. So you can select the size here if you want, or just leave it as it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to brush on the workspace. Kung mapapansin nyo, if you're going to brush on the workspace, it will just be limited to the shape, to the heart shape. Okay, kasi yung layer 1, which is nilagay natin, which is on top of shape 1. So, kung mapapansin nyo, it will follow the shape below it. Okay? So, let's say for example, I'm going to use the brush and let's change the color. Click the color picker here. Let's say, gawin natin blue. Okay? Then brush. And by the way, you can resize the brush size. Okay? By using the square bracket. Okay? Using the square bracket to reduce or to increase the size of the brush. You can use the square bracket on your keyboard. Okay, the square bracket on your keyboard. You can increase the size. You can decrease the size of the brush using the square bracket. Okay, so that's the keyboard shortcut for resizing the size of a brush. Okay, then try to brush or just click. Okay, if you're going to resize it a little bit bigger, kahit na lumagpas kayo dun sa shape, automatic, naka-confine lang yung binabrush nyo on the shape which is the heart shape. Okay, because this is a clipping mask of shape 1. Okay, so let's say for example, let's change the color. Yan natin ng yellow. On layer 1. Okay, so everything is confined on the shape because layer 1 is a clipping mask of shape 1. So it will only follow the shape below it. Okay, kaya mapapansin nyo may arrow pointing downward, so it means that this layer is a clipping mask of the layer below it. Okay, it will follow the shape below it. Okay, so you can always undo by pressing Ctrl Alt Z. Okay, that's multiple undo. Ctrl Alt Z, Ctrl Alt Z, multiple undo. Control Shift Z to redo. Control Alt Z for multiple undo. Control Shift Z. Multiple redo. Okay, Control Alt Z. Control Shift Z. That's multiple undo and multiple redo. Okay? So that is an example of a clipping mask. So we use a brush to stroke or to brush on the workspace, but it will follow the shape below it. Okay? So another example of a clipping mask is, let's say for example, if you wanted to have an image which fits, let's say, on a name. Let's create a new file again. Okay. So I'm going to use the type tool again. Then type your name. Increase the size para mas medyo visible yung clipping mask. Okay. So let's disregard the color because the clipping mask, the image will fit on that on the text. Okay. So this is your clipping mask. I'm going to open two background files. Let's say this is, I'm going to open background 1 and 2. Okay, I'm going to add two files on the workspace. So this is my workspace with the text James. So we have background 1 and background 2. Okay, let's start by dragging background 1. Let's click and drag it on this file. Again, since this is already open in Photoshop, you can use the move tool. This is the move tool. So just click and drag it to the file na lalagyan nyo, kung saan nyo ilalagay. Then release. Okay, Control T to reduce. Control minus to zoom in, zoom out. Control plus to zoom in, Control minus to zoom out, Control T for free transform, then resize the shape, the image. Okay, so this is your image. So as you can see, when you drag it on this workspace, so it is located now on top of the text. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a clipping mask again. Let's right click, then create clipping mask. Okay, right click on the label or layer 1, right click, then create clipping mask. Okay, automatically the shape follows the or the image follows the shape of the text. Okay, so you can always free transform, Control T. You can always resize. Okay, let's say we're going to add another one. So let's use background 1 here. So this is the shape, this is the image. Using the move tool, click and drag it to the workspace. Okay. Okay, it automatically creates clipping mask. Okay, you can rotate, Control T, free transform. Okay. Okay, you can interchange. So this is layer 2, which is above layer 1. So you can click and drag upwards so that this will be on topmost. Okay. You can always change the orientation by clicking and dragging the layers. Okay. So we now have a clipping mask. So images form based on the shape below it. Okay. In this case, the shape below it is a text. Okay. So that is how you do clipping mask in Photoshop. Okay, that will be all for today's lesson. So that's the Photoshop environment. That's basic selection, basic navigation in Photoshop, and also basic text tool, and also a clipping mask.